Hi, I'm Gary White,
And I'm Yvonne McNary.
here for Central Kentucky Talks. And today we're talking with a lady who has a very interesting story to tell. She actually has worked in Hollywood with some big name celebrities, Yvonne.
Wow, I'm impressed, Gary. All I get to work with is you.
I know. Hey. Well, she's going to share some of her stories with us and tell us a little about a book that she's written and her experiences in Hollywood. And it is Ms. Lene Rogus. Hello, Ms. Rogus.
Hi, Gary. Hi, Yvonne.
Hi, how
Thank
you
you for
doing?
having me.
Well, thank you. Thank you for
Good.
joining us. Now, tell us a little about your stories that you have. You have very interesting life experiences, it seems.
I didn't even realize I did. I just kind of was going along and wound up very fortunate to be working in the motion picture industry. And my first job was at Universal. Before they had the big, dark building where all the offices are now,
Uh-huh.
in those days they had bungalows. So you had all these bungalows with all of these major stars in them, and there was a little sidewalk that separated the bungalows. So I was working for a producer who was doing a Rock Hudson movie, Gathering of Eagles at the time.
Wow.
Across the way was Alfred Hitchcock's bungalow,
Oh, wow.
and then on our and then on our side was Cary Grant's bungalow and his producer Bob Arthur. So we would.
You were neighbors with Cary Grant, huh?
Yeah, it was kind of strange. I would see him out on the lawn because he had a lawn there, and I would be walking down the sidewalk to go to my car after work, and I don't know, one day he came sort of bounding up to me, and he said, "I say, you're rather shy, aren't you?" It was so weird, and then he would just talk to me every now and then. He would just talk to me. And then one night he said, "Would you like to have dinner?" And I said, "I'm not dumb." I said, "Sure." I'm naive, but I'm not dumb. So he said, "Well, come on to my house and we'll have dinner." So I followed him in my car. It was Coldwater Canyon, and he lived up high on the hill. So he said, "Park your car and then get in mine." So I got in his beautiful silver Rolls Royce. The first time in my life I was in one.
Wow.
Yes.
And you could feel the leather calf skin under your fingers on the seats. It was really cool.
Wow.
And so we went up the hill to his home. Evidently, he spent half the year in London and half the year in California. So we went in the house, and he introduced me to his housekeeper, cook, and his assistant. And I noticed that much of his furniture was covered with sheets, and he said he was getting ready to leave for London in not too distant future. And so he took me back to his bedroom. So I guess that's where he entertained. And he had one of those adjustable beds, and we made ourselves comfortable sitting on the bed.
Wow.
And then his housekeeper brought us champagne cocktails and caviar on toast. How's that, right?
Wow. In Cary
First
Grant's
time I
bed.
ever tasted first time I ever tasted either one, but I don't even think people know what a champagne cocktail is anymore. But it was pretty.
So what is
surreal.
it?
It's champagne. It has a little sugar cube with Angostura bitters, a
Okay.
little lemon.
Uh-huh. Huh.
So,
Wow.
and then she brought us a beautiful tray with flowers and an amazing meal, and we just sat and talked. But I think the strangest thing was sitting there next to him, thinking, "My God, this is like the number one top box office star sitting right next to him."
In his
that
bed.
kind of like total surreal moment. It's like, is this real or not? And I don't know. I think maybe he just wanted to talk, to not have somebody with. It's not that I didn't have stars in my eyes. I mean, I certainly had a certain amount of them, but I had a little bit more respect for these stars than jumping all over them or something. But he was very, very kind, and later on that year he bought me a Christmas present. He bought me a beautiful handbag, and I got one of his cards. It said Cary Grant on it. So it was,
Very nice. Very
Well,
nice.
I'm sure that made you feel very special because Cary Grant, I mean, he could have, gone out with just about any woman that he wanted, and he chose you.
yeah, I was. It was weird, because I was so young, and
Hmm.
I remember. It was just funny. I think I was sitting in the commissary one time by myself, and he came over and he put his arms on the table and leaned over and he said, "Hello, Marie." And I looked at him and I said, everybody is looking at you, right? And he just had this big smile. But I will tell you one thing. He was probably one of the most graceful men I've ever seen. It's when he walked, it's like he walked on air. It's almost as though he had a dancer's body. He kept himself so beautifully in balance, and he was tall. He was very attractive, and sometimes I would watch both he and Rock Hudson walk together to the commissary, and it's just kind of strange, surreal moments. You're looking at these two people, you think, my goodness.
Well, in a lot of his movies, he seemed to have a really gregarious personality, outgoing and, fun-loving and all that. Did you find that to be true about him? Was he a lot like that in his movies?
Yeah, I thought that he was very charming and very not off-putting at all. It was kind of strange to find that he was interested in me. I was so young. I was young. He was in his later 40s, but still, the whole thing was like, why is he interested in me?
Yeah. Well, you had that.
I was flattered, obviously,
Uh-huh.
but it was kind of like, why? But,
So what'd your girlfriends think? I know you had to tell them.
no, I didn't really. I thought that's not. I'm one of those people that I wasn't even going to write this story, and somebody said, no, you need to write these Hollywood stories in there because the book is about grief, and I celebrated all of my family members by telling their stories, so my story is woven in, and I said, well, this is part of my life, so okay, I will. But I really didn't talk about it when I was younger like that. I wanted to share stuff that I did with people because it was interesting,
Hmm.
and I just felt shut down, like everybody thought I was name dropping. So I just kind of got in the habit of not sharing these things with people, just kind of keeping them to myself.
So tell us. So these stories that you have that you're going to share some more with us today. You've compiled them for a book. Tell us a little about the book that you've written.
I lost 7 of my family members, and I decided to write their stories to kind of bring them to life again and show how I coped with each loss. And I learned something with each one, and I put together suggestions to help others who are grieving and give them some ideas that may ease their way a little bit, things that helped me. And I also have links to organizations that can help with grief.
Okay, and the name of the book?
It's Grief Comfort Guide, a personal journey from loss to light.
And how can people get a copy of the book?
It's on Amazon, both in print and ebook.
Okay.
Thank you for asking.
Yes, you just go to Amazon and get a copy of that. Now, and about grief. But we were saying there are many other stories because how long did you work in Hollywood?
18 years.
Okay. And so you kind of kicked it off a little bit with Cary Grant?
Yes, that was my universal time.
Okay.
And I spent. I think I've worked in every motion picture
Studio?
studio.
Okay.
Yeah,
So you
and
worked around.
for a short time, I worked for a couple of weeks. I worked for Gene Roddenberry on creative Star Trek. That was kind of cool.
Oh, really? What, on Star Trek?
Yes, it was the original Star Trek,
Uh-huh.
and it was just at their hiatus. So I was, kind of fortunate in a sense that I got a little bit of that before the show was canceled. But I did get a chance to go. He invited me to see the last show at his girlfriend's house, and I got to meet all of the actors except for Shatner and Nimoy. They weren't there, but everybody else was. We watched the closing episode together.
Okay. Wow.
And he was very nice to me as well.
Roddenberry. That's cool. Now, you also worked on some movies as well, correct?
Right. I think it's in 20th. I was working in a steno pool. The way that it used to work is you worked in the steno pool. I'd been working in legal and I wanted to get into production. So the steno pool people said, we have a really, really difficult director, and if you agree to work with him, we'll give you anything you want, any job you want after it's over.
Okay.
So I agreed, and I
Who was the director?
I totally got along with Michael Syme. This was for Myra Breckenridge. He wrote the screenplay and he directed it, and it was the first transgender movie. And actually, in the beginning, he was interested in only casting somebody who was transgender, and then changed his mind and got Raquel Welch for the part.
Okay.
And of course, she was beautiful, and it was great. And
Yes.
that's when I got to meet Mae West.
Oh, Mae West was in it too?
Yeah, Mae West was 76.
Now, wasn't that her last movie?
I think it was. She came out of retirement to do it, and she had this clause in her contract that she could write her own dialogue. So I had a really nice opportunity. She asked me to come in and take dictation for one of the scenes, and she was all in white satin trouser suit, and it was totally Mae West. And it was interesting because she would talk about herself in the third person.
Oh,
She'd say, well,
kind of like Barney.
Mae would do it this way. Mae would say that. And,
Well, that's
yeah,
interesting.
it was again one of those totally surreal moments, and nobody could write her dialogue like she could.
Well, evidently she did a good job.
Yeah.
She knew what she wanted to say.
Yes, she did, and she wasn't
Yes.
past saying it.
Exactly. Now, it says you worked on Rocky and Raging Bull, correct?
Yeah, I was one of the production coordinators on Raging Bull, and I also handled a lot of post-production stuff, the music clearance and
Okay.
screen credits and things like that. So I was really working on the production side of those movies.
So any stories with some of the celebrities from those movies?
Well, I met Stallone right after Rocky was done, and he kind of had his entourage around him. He came into my office. His office was next door to mine.
You didn't have dinner in his bed?
Pardon?
You didn't have dinner in his bed?
No, but others did. I wasn't tall enough. But he had his entourage around, and he said, "Oh, did you see Rocky? Did you like it?" So I mean, those were the early days, right? And he was making Rocky 2 at the time. And,
Okay.
Yeah, he was very cordial, and I think he grew into his celebrity at that point. He was growing into it.
Mhm.
Wow.
Wow. So you met a lot of celebrities that are still household names even to this day. What do you think of the modern celebrity? Do you have an opinion on some of the people who today are considered celebrities?
Well, I think that in a way it's so different than it used to be. There was more of a element of protection. Everybody had all of their publicity agents, and the studios were very concerned about um, privacy. And now everything is just out in the open. Nobody has no celebrity has any privacy whatsoever. So and everything is distorted in so many of the papers and all these crazy stories that aren't true, you know.
So it's a little
So I
different
think,
than it was back in the day.
yeah, it is. Even 15 years ago or something like that, it wasn't as uh, blatant as it is now. So many of the celebrities just, you have to kind of run and hide. There's so much paparazzi, and
Did you ever get
for,
caught with the paparazzi with any of your interesting
no,
encounters?
when you're on the studio, you're all protected. So when you
Okay.
get off the studio, then you're
It's
in
that's
trouble.
exactly.
But so no, I never even saw it actually happen. Because wherever I was, there was total security, and
Right.
and I work with the crews, and the crews are all so professional. Everybody's so professional and respects respects the actors.
Right. Well, we appreciate you talking with us,
Yes,
Ms. Rogas. Very interesting.
Yeah,
Well,
some
thank you,
very good
Gary.
insight into some of the into Cary Grant for sure.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
And again, these stories and more you share in a book, correct?
Correct.
And tell us once
in-
more the name of the book and how people can find it.
It's Grief Comfort Guide, a personal journey from loss to light.
Great. And we've been talking with Lene Rogas. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
Lene.
you so much. I
All right.
really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thank you.